Killers of the Flower Moon. Directed by Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, based on a book by David Gran, is an epic Western crime drama 3.5 hour long movie centering around the true story of the Oklahoma murders in the Osage Nation during the 1920s after oil was discovered on tribal land. Okay, so acclaimed director Martin Scorsese has taken a huge risk in this movie, detouring from mafia, corrupt, gangster-themed movies like Goodfellas and The Irishman. It's obvious that this movie was a passion project of Martin Scorsese's because this movie and its attention to detail is an absolute Scorsese masterpiece, just like The Irishman was a few years ago. This is an absolute must-see cinema experience, especially if you are a true Martin Scorsese fan. This movie is a shocking, brutal account of just how barbaric the Indians were treated by powerful, corrupt white folk back then for financial gain, and it beggars belief that these broad daylight murder atrocities were considered part of the norm like just 100 years ago, not to mention the backhanders given to doctors and corrupt law enforcers to hush it all up. It's a shocking eye-opener, and a considerable amount of credit must be given to Martin Scorsese for telling this graphic story as it is without being biased or prejudice to either the Indians or corrupt, powerful businessmen. This movie is getting a lot of criticism due to its 3.5 hour length and ludicrous $200 million budget, with people questioning, was that really necessary? Couldn't the movie have been just under 2 hours with a quarter of the budget in the hands of another acclaimed director, like Clint Eastwood for instance? And while they may have a valid point, at the end of the day, this is a Martin Scorsese movie who is the equivalent of Leonardo da Vinci in the artist world, and asking those above mentioned questions would be the equivalent of asking, couldn't a credible run-of-the-mill artist have painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling instead of Leonardo da Vinci? And the answer is, I don't think so. This movie, despite its 3.5 hour length, is never boring and will truly be appreciated by Martin Scorsese fans who will truly get his genius approach to filmmaking, and as I said, an absolute must-see in the cinema as opposed to streaming. Regardless of Martin Scorsese putting his trademark stamp on this movie enticing people to see it, this movie also needed Hollywood A-listers attached, i.e. Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro delivers a Robert De Niro bordering on cardboard cutout performance. To be honest, it's obvious that Robert De Niro is only in this movie for a hefty paycheck, insulting and becoming a Judas to his Robert De Niro brand, while Leonardo DiCaprio delivers a hideous parody cartoonish performance and should be shot for that, to be honest. It beggars belief that Leonardo DiCaprio would deliver what's easily one of the most horrific, diabolical, rotten tomato throwing performances ever seen in the frame of a Martin Scorsese masterpiece. Credible bit parts courtesy of Jesse Plemons, and on the backdrop of his Oscar win, Brendan Fraser thrown in for good measure. But this movie's saving grace performance-wise is Lily Gladstone, who keeps this movie afloat throughout. Pardon the broken record, but if you are a true Martin Scorsese fan, make it your business to see this in the cinema. This movie is really an epic night at the flicks, where the babysitter is brought in, dinner beforehand, no expense spared, truly magnificent, ultimate night at the flicks guaranteed, 10 out of 10.